Alright, here we go with another Ask Brendan session. I've got 3 questions, mostly on this subject of screening and assessment here. So it's a kind of screening and assessment edition. So AK has asked me, if you had to pick a single movement to screen someone with, what would you pick and why? Right, again, these questions are tough because you never only have to pick one exercise to screen someone with. It's not a kind of realistic scenario, but essentially you're screening people all the time in strength and conditioning. Every single time you look at someone moving, you're screening them. So they walk through the door, you're screening them. What's their posture like? How do they carry themselves? Do they internally rotate with their feet? Are they slouched? Are they kyphotic? Etc. etc. So you've always got more than one screen there anyway. In terms of actual screenings, I'd say your biggest movement that you'll gain the most information from is probably your overhead squat. So you can look at an overhead squat and observe a lot going on there in every single joint from ankles to wrists, and you can make a lot of observations on that. So your overhead squat is your main sort of bang for your buck screening exercise. But as soon as you get a client training, you're screening them, you're watching them move. And I'm really not a big fan of screening in general. I think that I can get someone in the gym and start them on a gym-based program and pick out loads of different things, and I tend to make loads of little notes when I start off with an athlete. So that's kind of where I go with my screenings. Second question, what one aspect of mobility or stability do you think everyone could do with addressing or do more of? Alright, well, for me, mobility, stability, I think we've talked to death about that now. We've covered it all. There's joint by joint, there's most stability, a term that some of the guys from the States have kind of brought up. I think we're paralysing ourselves with it now. We are paralysing ourselves with it. For me, everybody just needs to get mobile, and then strength takes care of the stability. And I know that's controversial. I know I'll probably get some comments saying, hang on a minute, what about this? But essentially, we do a load of mobility work for hips, we do a load of mobility work for upper back, spine, T-spine, we do some ankle stuff, and we do some general mobility movements, so hand walkout, Spidermans, toe touch squats with a reach, thoracic spine rotations. We do all that stuff, and I think that's just, for me, that's just a warm-up, that's just general training. So great warm-up to address those key areas, and then crack on with your training. And let's not kind of harp on about mobility and stability that much more. Mobility training is a really important training unit in my programs. I really value it, and I think that you can make some real changes to people's movement with it. Stability is just strength. Just get your athletes strong and mobile, and it'll take care of itself. How would you approach a completely new client to determine what program to prescribe? Would the above approach differ depending on the profile of the client? To be honest, I'm only just reading these questions. I know it's sort of that you might not believe that, but I'm just sort of firing these out there. Yeah, I think essentially when I meet a new client, it really depends on the setting that they come under. So if they're a funded athlete from a governing body, many a times I'll go through my own personal kind of assessment process. I'll basically just get them moving in the gym. So they'll do some squats, some lunges, some press-ups. I'll look at some of their key flexibility areas, but many a time I've liaised with the physio and they've given me some feedback on that kind of athlete's profile anyway. So if that's the case, that's what I tend to do, and I'll get them moving and I'll talk about what goals they want to achieve, and the sport and the competitive calendar, etc. And a lot of the time the scheduling is the key when it comes to setting up the new program, and their past, their history, their injury history, that sort of stuff. So all really important areas to ascertain where your athletes are. Training history is another one as well that you need to obtain that kind of background of what they've done before. Once I've had a look at them in the gym moving and I've taken them through a screening process, then I'll put their program together, and it'll either be a basic sort of athletic development style program, so a slightly higher volume, more about that element of it, or there'll be other times where they've got a really good training history and we can go straight into more of a strength program after a couple of sessions of familiarising them with what I'm expecting and the coaching cues that I tend to use. In terms of the profile of the client, I guess that means if they are an elite athlete or a kind of aspiring elite athlete or a total novice athlete. It really doesn't matter to me that. It's more about their training schedule, how often I can see them, the time I get with them, their training history and their current training status and performance in terms of movement. That's really the key things that determine the program that I prescribe, and I'm not bothered if they're aspiring elite or whatever the hell else. It'll be more about how they perform in the gym environment and how we can support them. And that's another session of Ask Brendan. If you want your question answering, let me know and I'll do my best to answer it.